Hi, Norma. Okay, I want to look into the in-home daycares in Roswell. So what I'm going to do, I went ahead and typed in the Google search in-home daycare Roswell because I'm thinking as a mom, if I'm looking for in-home daycares, what would I type in? And this is exactly what I would type in. Now, as a consumer, as a shopper, we are conditioned to think that the people who show up on page 1 in Google are the best, right? And that's how most of us pick our services. Or if I'm looking for a carpet cleaner, I'm going to type in carpet cleaners Rome. And then from what I can see on the first page or up here, that's who I'm going to pick. And that's one of the reasons why websites are so important, because typically if you don't have one, unless I have your business card or unless somebody told me about your website, I'm not going to find you. So it's important to have a website, and more importantly, it's important to have a website up here on page 1, because typically consumers are not going to go all the way down to page 4 or 5 to find what they are looking for. They're going to pick somebody on page 1 because they think, well, they must be the best. Okay, so let me show you a couple of things that you can do. So I typed in-home daycares Roswell, and this is what popped up. Now, there are a couple of things that we can do. The first thing is you want to be up here. This is called the map pack, and you want to be here. And the first thing you need to do, Norma, is you need to get a Google My Business account. You can set that up yourself, or this is something that I can do for you. But basically, you're going to get up a Google My Business account, and when you do that, you're going to show up here. Now, ideally, you want to be right here in the top 3. And if I click more places, this shows me the entire map of all the in-home daycares in Roswell. Okay, so the first thing I did was look and see if you're listed here, and you're not. So it's easy to set that up, and once you do that, you'll show up here, and we want to start working on getting those Google reviews, because again, typically as a consumer, what we're going to do is we're going to pick the person that has the most stars, because obviously they're the best, right? So we want to get you set up there. We want to get you some Google reviews. And ideally, we want to get you right here in the top 3. Okay, so that's the first thing. We want to get you a Google My Business set up. And you don't even have to have a website to do that, by the way. So the next thing, if we want to start working on your website, there's a couple of things that we can do to get you to show up on page 1. So I'm looking here, and Miss Claire's house, she's up here in the map pack. And she is also right here as well. So she's listed twice on page 1. The Success Kids in-home daycare, they're in the map pack, but they don't have a website. So they're listed once on page 1. And then Little Lambs Daycare is right here in the map pack, and they are also right here. So they too are listed twice on page 1. So let's take a look at this. Here's Little Lambs Daycare. One thing I want to tell you, anybody can build a website, Norma, but it takes a lot of work on the back end to get a website to show up number 1 on Google. So a couple of things that we can do to get you to show up number 1 or on page 1 in Google. First thing is Google likes a lot of content. Basically what I mean by that is we want your websites to have a lot of words on page 1. So the reason for that is Google, they're going to put who they think is the best on page 1. Now, Google is not a real person, they're a robot, right? So how do they figure out who the best is? They figure out who the best is based on the websites that have a lot of content, a lot of words. The way they figure is, well, if this website has a lot of words, then they must know what they're talking about. And if they know what they're talking about, then they must be the best. And that is one of the factors that Google uses to figure out which websites to put on page 1. Now, typically, we want to have at least 1,000 words on the first page. And this website has, let's figure that out. Hold on. I'm going to go to a word counter. And so that website has 202 words. So my business model is pretty simple. What I do is I look at your top competitors, see what they're doing, and basically just do better than they are. So if she has 202 words, if she's on page 1, then I just have to do better than her. And I want to get you at least 1,000 words on your first page. The next thing, your interior pages, like these pages right here, we want to have at least 500 words on those pages. And she has probably 50. Okay, so that's one thing that we're going to do to beat your competition is basically establish you as the authority. And the way we're going to establish you as the authority is to put a lot of content on your website. Okay. Let's check out Miss Claire. Okay, about the same, about 200 words. Okay, again, more here, so that's good. So that's another thing we're going to do. And so I'm not really going to go into too much more depth. There's a lot of other things too, like getting other websites to link to you. Let me check this out. Another thing that Google looks at to figure out who the authority person is they look and see how many times a website is referenced on other websites. We call these backlinks. So I'm going to put in Miss Claire's house. And there are no other websites at all that link back to her. So what that means is other websites that also reference Miss Claire's house and link back to her. The more websites we can get to link back to you, the more it's going to establish you as the authority. So with her not even having any backlinks at all, and she's already on page 1, basically that means it's going to be pretty easy to beat her out. So these are a couple of things, Norma. If you find your website, let me know, and I can look at that, and we can begin working on that to getting you moved up to page 1. Or if you want to just start fresh, and we can go ahead and start building you a new website, let me know, we can do that as well. I hope this helped you, and let me know if you need anything else or have any other questions. Thanks, girl.